Jeremiah Lewis is asking to support, letters of support for the smart bus.
Oh,
The application is due.
apropos, maybe.
I've already done mine. Or each alderman get one?
Yes, she
Okay.
said, he said gather up as many from elected officials as possible.
Okay. Yeah, I've already done mine. And
No,
I
I talked to you at the meeting, but that's a good thing.
oh, it's a wonderful thing. And I send a letter every year too, both as my business personally and for the city.
So if you could just bring that back Tuesday night.
How
are you?
How are you?
Hey, how are you? You're doing good, thanks. I didn't know you were gonna be in person this time.
I catch myself here lately, I've been trying to lick my finger.
What's up, Christopher?
How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Oh, really, good to see you.
Mayor, we have several people on the call now.
Okay, I see Alderman Sistrum and Mr. Cavato. I've never seen a face to go with that one. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me, Mayor Sproul. How are you?
And Ms. Gregory, how are you? Are we?
Mr. Gregory.
Almost 1 minute.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All right, I've got a thumbs up. This begins our Facebook live stream for City of Starkville's work session in preparation for our last meeting of the year of 2020. So I want to welcome everyone here. We have Alderman Walker is on video. Alderman Sistrunk is also on video.
Mayor?
And Alderman Carver you're on the phone?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, not video. Okay, thank you. And we have in person, we have Alderman Beatty, Alderman Vaughn, and Alderman Little. So thank you everyone for being here, and we will get started with virtually no fanfare. We have 2 items on the agenda prior to taking up the actual agenda itself. And the first is a presentation by Mr. Michael Cavato. He is with Bird. If everyone remembers, we had Lime bikes a couple of years ago or so, and they were with us for a little while and then pulled out. Bird is looking at potentially coming back or coming into Starkville with as much the same program of a micro, what do we call it, micro mobility program, Mr. Cavato?
Exactly,
Or
yes.
Scooters, I think. So I believe you have a presentation of some kind, or whatever it is that you'd like to present to us. We'll be delighted to have you here. We appreciate you being with us and look forward to the information you're going to share. So go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Sproul. With your permission, I will share my screen here and begin. Are you all able to see my screen?
No, we see you. You're looking good, but no screen.
Okay. Let me try this again then. I apologize.
That's all right. Our IT people constantly make me wish I had more knowledge in that field. So.
Apologize. We typically use Zoom, and for whatever reason, I seem to be having some issues with Google Meets here. Regardless, I will, without the benefit of my slides, which I can send following this meeting then in the interest of time, give a brief overview. As everybody is already familiar with the Line Bike program, we do share some similarities in the sense that we are a shared micromobility operations company. Our area of specialty is with the electric kick scooters that you may be familiar with during the final period with Lime. The difference being we intend to to exclusively provide those options rather than pedal bikes in addition to the scooters. We tend to have a bit of a different operational model than Lime. I know there was some concern in terms of our capacity to stay within the market despite not having the express permission of MSU to operate on their grounds at this point in time. I think that we have built something out that should enable us to do so without any concern. Specifically, we've identified an individual within the community that we would like to work with and partner with to help with some of the in-field operations, which should create a far more sustainable model in the long term. For those unfamiliar with the actual program itself, It's accessed, or the scooters and the system itself, it's accessed via a mobile application downloaded to an individual cellular phone. They'll see one of our scooters throughout the community, scan it to unlock it, take it to their ultimate destination, hit a button on their phone to end their ride. Somebody else will come along and do the exact same thing. We expressly seek to solve for what they call the first last mile problem. That is the final amount of distance somebody ultimately needs to go to, whether it's between a parking lot and their ultimate destination, a public transit stop and their ultimate destination, maybe even a friend's location, their home, to a local business. Typically, the distances are about a mile to a mile and a half, despite the moniker last mile problem. We firmly believe in creating some very deep community ties. I think that is the only way that we will have the sustainable approach to one of these systems that will enable us to stay for years to come. But for that reason that we have developed this new operational model that involves the partnership that I described. As we haven't formalized it yet, I'm hesitant to provide any names at this point in time, but certainly we will provide all of the necessary communication channels for this local partner once an arrangement has been formalized. Regarding our intentions, I am hoping that with our logistics partner, we can work to supply some scooters even before the end of the year, should we not run into any problem. If not, then very early in Q1 2021, I think we could potentially have a fleet of up to 100 scooters, not all of which will be active at any given time, available for use by visitors, residents, and students within the area of Starkville. There are a few key areas that we've identified, particularly around the Main Street downtown and near the campus, that I believe you'll see consistent utilization. I think there is a substantial chance that we will see an above average amount of utilization based off of the demographics within Starkville, based off of the layout of the city, and the key points of interest that we've already set up and identified as points that will likely lead to commuting channels. There are a number of key benefits throughout the community, regardless of whether somebody is a rider or not. 56% of our trips end in front of a small business, which contributes to stimulation of the local economy, further spending. I know COVID hit the entire nation quite hard, so I'm hoping that we can do anything we can to help foster some further growth, foster some further spending within some of the local businesses. We've done a number of surveys within a number of different cities, and there are numerous individuals that say they will continue to go to a location and they will continue to spend at a location as it was accessible by scooter. So we will see some further stimulation within the economy as a result. Further to that, we do work closely with small businesses to create partnerships, including different locations within West Sacramento, Kansas City, for example, Fort Lauderdale, where we've created not only pins on a map that allow people to see these locations if necessary, promote safety campaigns, create designated areas for parking in front of their locations, which would then further, of course, encourage individuals to attend and spend within these businesses. I'm sure everybody here is asking about safety. There are a number of, or concerned about safety. There are a number of features that we build within both our software and that we engage in from an operational side to ensure that we are providing the safest means possible. I will include, as I said, in the submission that I provide to Mayor Spruill following this. Again, I apologize that the slides are not showing up here. Some further detail in that regard. Specifically, the features I'd like to highlight are what we call our helmet selfies function. That means that at the end of the ride that an individual takes, if they take a photograph of themselves wearing a helmet, they will receive a credit to their next ride, which would encourage further safe riding. Every rider goes through a training flow when they first sign up for an account that includes teaching them proper use of scooters, appropriate driving patterns, encourages safe helmet use, etc. Certainly, it is something that is critical to us. We've led community engagement events as well to encourage safe riding. We can do so again within Starkville should it be necessary. Another feature I'd like to make sure I mention is what we call warm-up mode. What this does is limit the maximum speed of the scooter, which ordinarily is 15 miles per hour, to somewhere between 6 and 8 miles per hour until an individual feels more comfortable using the device, at which point they can gradually increase the speed until it reaches the maximum speed that we cap at, 15 miles per hour. Some of the advantages to this are we've noticed that certain individuals who perhaps just simply don't feel comfortable traveling at 15 miles per hour and maybe just want something that makes it a little bit easier to get around rather than walking, will remain within warm-up mode indefinitely, simply because it's a little easier on the joints or something along those lines. In the interest of time, I'll cut the speech short here and just open it up for any questions that I might be able to answer in case there's something that has come up based off anything I've said here.
Okay, Mr. Cavato, thank you very much. I will, because we have people who are on the telephone or on visual, I will go ward by ward and ask questions, but I do have one of my own. You said 100 units. What other university towns are you currently in?
We are working with a wide range of university towns. Ohio State is probably one of our biggest partners in terms of our presence there. Most recently, we launched in Moorhead, Kentucky, another university town. Given the demographic that tends to utilize our scooters the most, that's not to say exclusively, as we do see a wide range, people from 18 to 78, using our scooters. But certainly, I think the younger demographic tends to naturally gravitate towards new technologies. Certainly, I have no doubt that we will see considerable utilization from the student population within Starkville.
And you and I, when we had our initial conversation, one of the things I expressed to you was a concern about having these, I think they call them bird droppings in the industry. And I don't want us to be subject to grabbing up your units and taking them because they're blocking our sidewalks or leaving them all over town in ways that create a hazard. So your plan, I assume, with your potential partner is to make sure that doesn't happen?
Absolutely. So our local operations partner is somebody that we provide all the best practices to and all the education that they would need to run one of these fleets successfully. A large component of that is what we term rebalancing. It's just a fancy word for moving the scooters from a location where somebody has ended their ride back to an area where somebody is more likely to use it again. We will have pre-identified usually somewhere between 40 to 50 of those locations. Our local partner throughout the day on an ongoing basis will engage in rebalancing efforts to bring these scooters from end ride locations to these nests.
Okay, cute, nests. Bird droppings and nests, got it. Okay. All right, I'll go ward by ward. Alderman Carver, do you have any questions of Mr. Cavato?
I don't. Maybe just playing the devil's advocate for the safety of scooters and versus bicycles. I mean, we get a lot of complaints. We got a lot of complaints about Lime, people leaving them in parking spots downtown. And what would be your difference between you and Lime, and why you think from a sustainability standpoint you'll make it in this market?
Absolutely. I'm not going to speak ill of my competitor. I think Lime is a fantastic company. Having said that, I think we do offer a number of advantages as a result of both our operational model and the vehicle that we are an exclusive provider for. Because all of our scooters are battery operated, they do require more frequent intervention than a bicycle would, which necessitates close check-ins, a tight operational execution, and ensuring that we engage in these rebalancing efforts regularly. Regarding safety, to address your first point, there's been a number of third-party studies done throughout the scientific community that show that scooters are approximately as safe as bicycles. The incident rate you would see is virtually identical. The difference being because scooters are substantially more popular, you may find that there are a few additional incidences, particularly near the beginning of the launch, simply because people use them a lot more than a bicycle. Regarding our ability to do this in a sustainable fashion, I think that really comes as a result of the partnership we would have not only with the city, but with our local partner. This is somebody who is obviously motivated as a member of the community to deliver on a level of service that I don't think you would see otherwise. Somebody that we incentivize certainly, but somebody who as a result of their ties wants to execute in a way that is frankly above anything that we would otherwise see.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Carver, is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Alderman Sistrom, any questions?
I think I heard earlier that this would not be, you would not have nests on campus at Mississippi State because there is such crossover from the city to the university. How does that work going forward?
Absolutely. Every single one of our scooters is equipped with what's known as an IoT device, essentially a fancy GPS with additional sensors, somewhat similar or analogous to a cellular phone. What that will allow us to do is track the location of every single scooter, create a digital boundary where the MSU campus begins, and if an individual crosses through that threshold, Very shortly afterwards, the scooter will slow down to about 1.5 miles, begin beeping and flashing. A notification will show up on their phone until they return to the operational area. This will prevent usage on the campus until such time as the campus decides that they'd like to have something like this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Little.
A couple, when you say scooter, is this a standing type ride or a sitting down scooter ride?
Very good question. So they are the stand-up electric kick scooters. Each unit weighs, depending on the make model, usually somewhere between 35 and 40 pounds.
And I'm assuming these are to be ridden on the side of the road like a bicycle?
Absolutely. So treat them very similar to a bicycle in terms of the way that people would operate them and any enforcement process involved.
I had, was in Nashville last February, and I had heard they had just banned those scooters. They were riding on sidewalks, and it became a safety issue up there. And we saw a lot of them that were, whizzing by the pedestrians. So it's not something I'd want to see anybody on the sidewalks. That'd be something we'd have to really monitor because, college kids and the things, sometimes they're not the best judgment, especially late at night.
You're absolutely right. We do have certain protocols we can engage in to prevent usage late at night, such as shutting down the fleet digitally if it does become a hazard or a nuisance. I think it's better just to get a sense of what the data would suggest the utilization and what the usage is like before we commit to anything. But certainly we have a lot of dynamic capabilities in that regard. Another thing I should mention, we do quite a bit of studies, including surveys, observational studies, collection from the sensor data that we have within the scooters. In terms of sidewalk riding, what we've identified is 94% of people actually prefer riding on the road in comparison to the sidewalk. So I do think that the overwhelming majority of people, particularly given their familiarity with local bike regulations, will behave in an appropriate manner. We can't catch everybody, but certainly if it comes down to it, we can terminate an account if there's an egregious offense.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Cavato. Thank you for your presentation today. I'm absolutely in favor of this mode of transportation. I don't think there's any question that the user group that you're talking about would readily use this. I've seen it in every major metropolitan area where I'm taking the same demographic. They gravitate toward that for both fun and enjoyment, but also for mobility, which I think is important. Really the question that I have, you answered some. I appreciate the unit disengaging when it reaches the campus. I think that is going to be a challenge, and having that sort of mechanism built in, I think, goes a long way. The other question is really what I would like to see in terms of data gathering, if this is to move forward, would be to look at not initially maybe that 100 units or so, being able to look at something that may be a little bit smaller so we can sort of monitor and see how things are going. I agree with Alderman Little's concern. I think more people are going to prefer to ride it on the road, but we certainly have multi-use paths, and I think this would be appropriate for the scooters to be on there. And it may be in those situations where maybe that warm-up mode might be something that becomes more of the typical model as opposed to the full throttle, maybe something that would be interested in order to try to alleviate some concerns that some businesses may have as you're working with whoever your local liaison is and the city, looking to identify not only appropriate nest locations for what may be most applicable, where they may be more in line to pick up a scooter, but really working with us to figure out where can we have a typical bike or scooter type of corral where it makes sense for the city, and so where we're going to be able to have a little bit closer opportunity to control location and where things are. I certainly think that people are going to use this product if it's here, and I think it's up to the city to try to make sure that when it is used, that is used in a safe method as possible. And I agree that I think data collection is going to be a way to use that. I would also potentially be in favor of being able to shut the scooters off at a PM time. I'm not sure what that time is, but certainly it's going to be safer to ride that type of vehicle in the daytime versus the nighttime. So looking at those types of options, what may be applicable. But I think there's no doubt that this type of transportation would be used in our community primarily, I think in the downtown area in between the entertainment and arts district in between there and the campus. And I also think it has the potential to be used in other areas specifically related to around where other parks are. Maybe in a less of a numbers, but I think my question would be a concern only instead of a complete rollout of 100 or so vehicles, but something much less in order to generate some initial data to try to get some buy-in to see if that's something that we can actually do to understand the true capacity of whoever your local liaison. They may be all in, they may be very gung-ho for it until they have to go around and get 100 scooters routinely throughout the day. We need to see what that capacity is actually that they have to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I appreciate the enthusiasm and the vote of confidence, certainly. To your point regarding the 100 scooters, we do have partnerships of this type with a number of individuals across both the United States and Europe. Certainly, we know for a fact that a single individual, if that comes down to it, can manage a fleet of 100 scooters. Having said that, the reason I suggest the number 100 to start is for a number of reasons. First and foremost, not all of them will be active at any given time. So certainly, even though 100 scooters might be available within the city of Starkville, not all of them will be available to be ridden. Further, these systems are predicated on two notions: convenience and utility. Essentially, you have to be able as a rider to find one of these scooters when you need one, and you have to be able to take it where you need to go. To that end, there must be a certain level of density for a fleet like this for it to be a reliable transportation option. Having too few scooters is just as bad as having too many. I believe Starkville could probably support a fleet of 500, possibly 600 scooters, realistically, based off of the demographic data that we have available, based off of the size, based off of the population. Certainly, I think it's way too many to start with. If we do have 100 scooters, perhaps of which maybe 70 are active initially, we can always reduce beyond that if the utilization just is not consistent with what our algorithms are predicting at this point in time. But having the scooters available to be able to swap out for continuity of service, I think will present a significant advantage, especially for our local partner. Regarding your point to shutting off the scooters, absolutely, we can explore that. I'll speak with the launch team, and if they would like to shut the scooters off between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m. from the onset, I believe that will address a lot of the concerns that you've raised in that regard.
Thank you.
I'm going to interject here real quick before I go to Alderman Beatty. When Lime, right before Lime left us, they had, I believe, where we're experimenting with about 30 scooters that they had put around town. So just to give you an order of magnitude of what they were trying before they ended up pulling out. Alderman Beatty, any questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Cavado, glad to have you with us this morning. These scooters are not street legal in the sense that a sit-down scooter with signals and that kind of, they're not, and brake lights, things like that. It's different. It's more like treated like a bicycle, right?
Treat them like a bicycle. They are equipped with lights. They do have a headlamp, a tail lamp, reflectors along the side, so certainly there is visibility there.
That's my next question. And one other question. You're negotiating in Columbus, Ohio with Ohio State University for a program similar to this, I'm sure larger because Ohio State's a bigger school than Mississippi State. How are your negotiations going with Ohio State? You've got to get, I mean, the idea is to get it where people can drive these things from off campus, on campus, that kind of thing. So how's the stuff going with Ohio State, or is it Murray State or Moorhead? Where was the other place you?
So we are active in Ohio State's campus currently. In terms of how that would relate to Mississippi State, there are typically, and I'm sure you are already familiar with this, individuals who are responsible for the transportation, the parking on the campus. At this point in time, the university partnerships team that we have internally has engaged in conversations with the individuals who are responsible for all of the travel patterns within the campus area. Certainly, it is our intention to make sure that we do everything above board in accordance with both the university's wishes and the city's wishes. We're not going to increase our operational area until the university feels comfortable having us on campus. I do think having a local partner that they know, they trust, and somebody that they've worked with in the past could lend some further confidence to the access that may happen on campus as a result.
Realistically, though, these things, these things, for it to work for you and for our campus, our student body, our community, it's gotta be able to, these things need to be able to be used on campus as well as in the city, correct?
It's a very good thing. Is it a necessity? I don't believe so. I think we would see considerable utilization without access to the campus. Frankly speaking, if I didn't believe that this was sustainable without access to the campus, I would not encourage involvement with a local partner.
But just to reiterate that you in Columbus, Ohio, you can go on the Ohio State University campus with these, right?
Yes, we have access to numerous campuses across the entire country. I can actually provide a list to Mayor Squirrel afterwards if you'd like, at least some of the largest ones.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Bartow. Thank you very much. My question, you said something about the helmets. Are they mandatory that they wear a helmet when they're wearing the scooter, riding the scooter?
We encourage the use of helmets, but as there's no state regulation requiring their use, we can't do the same to our riders. So certainly we actively encourage safe riding practices, but it's not a requirement.
Mayor, is that helmet ordinance not require helmets on scooters?
So, hang on, hold on just a second. Whoever, Alderman Carter, let Alderman Vaughn was talking. Yes, sir.
Doesn't we have a bicycle ordinance?
We have a bicycle ordinance.
Following that one.
You
Yes.
have to follow a helmet. You got to wear a helmet.
We do have a bicycle ordinance.
Right.
And we'll just have to see if it's worded broadly enough to cover scooters, but if it isn't, that could be a quick fix.
Yes.
Okay.
Like any other ordinance amendment.
And my last one, Alderman Walker brought this question out about 100, but I was talking when I was interviewed by your guy that around here, I think 100 would be too many. I really think we should try less than 100 instead of trying 100. I think we should decrease that number some.
Absolutely. I can appreciate the concern there. Certainly, if 100 is not justified, we can reduce the initial deployment to a smaller number, to something that will ensure that the city feels comfortable, but a sufficient size to allow for a density that riders will see this as a viable transportation option.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Alderman Carter, was that you?
Yes, I was just going to say, the city attorney, you're saying that the helmet ordinance does not apply to scooters?
No, I don't know. I just didn't know this was going to be on the agenda today, so I hadn't looked at the bicycle helmet ordinance in a while, but we can pull that up and see. But if it doesn't apply to scooters, we can add that in if that's the will and pleasure of the board. It may be worded broadly enough where scooters would fall within that ordinance. I'll just have to look at it.
I would just be definitely in favor of a helmet ordinance with a scooter from a safety standpoint versus bicycle traffic. And then the second, well, two things I'll end up real quick is one, I'd like to see that PowerPoint. Mayor, please email me the PowerPoint that I didn't have the opportunity to see through a telephone call. And I support the gentleman with the density, knowing 100 probably is only going to have 50 to 70 active scooters. So if this is something that's the will and pleasure of the board, I'm more and leaning from 100 to 150 scale. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman Carter. And as soon as I get that PowerPoint, I will email it out to all of the board members so they'll have access to it. All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else, anything else? Mr. Cavato, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate it. I personally loved having the scooters in town when they were here and was very sorry to see them go. So it is my hope that this will be a business model that will work for you and that Starkville will be the beneficiary of that. So thank you again, and I will get your PowerPoint and pass it along. So have a great day.
I appreciate it. Thank you all for your time. I hope you have a great day as well. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, next item on the agenda is a discussion of a recycling program with potential plans, costs, or et cetera. So Alderman Beatty, this one's yours.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, can I stop you just for a second?
Absolutely.
I apologize. I have been asked to plug, let me get the proper language. We're doing a survey right now about the bike ped deal, and so I wanted to plug that one. If everybody would go on online to our parks and provide the, where is it? We are at 500 right now, but like to get about another 200. So if you could go on and fill out the survey, we would greatly appreciate it. So there, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Not at all. The city of Starkville discontinued what we had in place, recycling program effective the end of our fiscal year, which was September 30th this year. Since that time, there's been, I've received a good many emails and a lot of good bit of correspondence concerning the fact that people are concerned that we don't have any option to recycle. And the reasons, I think, that, and Mr. Ware could lend his expertise on this, would be the fact that the cost of transporting our recycled stuff to Tupelo was getting expensive, more expensive than the money we were taking in through a $2 fee. So what the city, what did at the outset was, when we saw this was about to happen in September, I made a phone call or two on campus and talked to some people in the facilities management department at Mississippi State who indicated that they were interested in partnering with, potentially with Mississippi State, with City of Starkville, to do recycling. And so basically we had some subsequent conversations, meetings with Saunders Ramsey and the people over facilities management, J.D. Hardy, and had started to get far enough into it that we talked about how our participation would be under their program. They, a Waste Pro company out of Lowndes County, collects their garbage and does their recycling. And so we got to the point where there was a proposed memorandum of understanding that had some broad kind of language in it, but basically what Mississippi State was proposing at that time, at that level in the conversations to do was take us in and allow us, and of course Waste Pro was part of the conversation, to collect and recycle what they were doing, and we would do it through a single drop site or a collection site, which we were planning and proposing to be at the sanitation department. As the communications went on and moved up the ladder at Mississippi State, it stalled out. And we got to the point where we just the proposal just kind of hit a wall, and I don't know how far up or where, but what we did at that point in time was go back and started negotiating directly with Waste Pro, the Mississippi State's garbage and recycling company, to do a standalone separate contract for us. We looked at all different types of possibilities, not curbside again, but multiple, maybe more than one drop site. And then as we got involved with them, this is chronology, maybe I'm trying to bring people up to speed on. They kind of indicated to us what they were going to be willing to do, what the recyclables they would be able to take, and basically, under what circumstances they would participate with the city of Starkville in recycling. I have two people here today that can know a lot more about recycling than I do. Professor Alexis Gregory, who teaches over in the architecture school, and Dr. Mary Love Taggart, who is a biomedical engineering professor at Mississippi State, that have both been very actively involved on MSU's campus and in the community with recycling, and also with Professor Gregory in the recycling committee that we had here at the city of Starkville that I think is still active. But at this time, I'm going to let them speak and kind of fill the board in, the people in the room, and anybody watching on through the internet or something about where we are, and just some general information about recycling and the importance of it, and then I'll take it back over, and then we'll talk. Also, Alderman Sistrom has been invaluable to us also, because being the budget person, she's helped us work with that aspect of it. Also, Mr. Calvin Ware, who is head of sanitation department, because his expertise has been invaluable also, and his knowledge and expertise. So at this time, I'll turn this over to Professor Gregory and let you start first. And thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you, Alderman Beatty. I'm going to see if I can share my screen, but I don't know if that will work or not. Let's see. Nope, that didn't work. Well, what I was going to share was the report that the aldermen got a little over a year ago, November 19th. That was the report from the Ad Hoc Recycling Committee. I was not the chair, that was Amy Counterman, and she has since moved to Auburn. But I was the secretary, so I'm here representing the Ad Hoc Committee just to refresh the board on the information that you were provided on November 19th. So first, the three recommendations that the committee had was improve education and communication efforts. This came from many members of the community in Starkville who had no idea that we had a recycling program. So there were people who were interested in recycling but did not realize that they could recycle. And this is when we still had the pickup program, the curbside pickup program. The second recommendation was developing and utilizing local partnerships. So there was the creation of Keep Starkville Beautiful, which Amy Counterman had been spearheading and had developed. And she was doing education and outreach efforts to local schools in order to educate children, and then through a trickle-down effect, their families on the benefits of recycling and how to properly recycle. So we would like to continue that relationship and look at other local partnerships as well, which Mary Love can talk more about. And then last was reducing barriers to recycling. So part of it, again, was the barriers of access, so how people could sign up for the recycling when we had the $2 fee and getting the green bins. That is obviously not an issue anymore, but now we have the drop-off over at the sanitation department, and we're looking at having a new drop-off, a more organized and better developed drop-off. And so we would want to make sure that that doesn't create any barriers to recycling that citizens would like to do. So in summary, I just wanted to read y'all the basically the summary after that. So it says, in addition, the committee recommends pursuing grant opportunities to help subsidize future costs associated with infrastructure upkeep, labor, materials processing, and outreach/education initiatives. The city should work with local partners and civic groups to identify and apply for existing and emerging grants. And on that note, I would like to turn it over to Mary Love to talk about those local partnership opportunities and the grant opportunities.
Dr. Taggart, I want to recognize someone else. We have Mr. Matthew Noon with us today, who's a member of the Starkville Recycling Committee. Mr. Noon, glad to have you with us. Also, owner of Starkville Recycling. So glad to have you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Is there a way for me to advance? I've got a PowerPoint presentation. Can I advance the slides?
Oh, yes.
Joel, Mr. Clements will be able to assist you with that. Alderman Sistrunk, in the meantime, while Mary Love is getting set up, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm prepared to, about the money part of this to indicate what I think is a reasonable path forward for us as we get back into the recycling program, and to talk about what our next steps would be in terms of developing a contract and taking board action.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think Mary Love's ready now.
All right, well, I just wanted to say thank you all for the opportunity to be here and talk a little bit about this, and thank you for your service to our city. I know it's a big job to keep everything running like it should be. So I'm going to talk about just some general recommendations for recycling, and then a little bit more specific recommendations for a drop-off program, which is what we're currently looking at. So, sorry, it's hard to talk a lot. So, why should we recycle? I mean, recycling, we're not gonna, let me just go ahead and say, we're not gonna make money off of recycling. It's not, the money we make from selling the product is not gonna be enough to pay for the cost of doing recycling. But every year, Mississippians spend about $70 million to dispose of recyclable material worth $200 million. We got 362 southeastern manufacturers who rely on recycled feedstock, employ over 90,000 people, and generate $40 billion in sales annually. You may not know, but KW Plastics is located in Troy, Alabama. That's the largest HDPE recycler in the world. So all of the plastic, all the HDPE plastic in the southeast is not enough to supply that facility. It could only go for about 2 days. In Mississippi alone, we've got 11 manufacturing facilities that rely on recycled material and employ 1,971 people. And our Southwire here in Starkville is a zero landfill company. I'm not going to read all these bullets, but it takes a long time for these products to completely degrade in a landfill. And we also conserve energy when we recycle. And if you've ever visited a landfill, I've been out to our local landfill a couple of times. I've tried to take my kids out there just to impress upon them. You know, in Mississippi, we are a rural state, so we have more available land for landfills, but I don't know anybody who would choose to voluntarily live by a landfill. So we also recycle because it's the right thing to do. If we don't, put our trash in a landfill, it often ends up in unintended, or recycle it, it ends up in unintended destinations. You might have heard about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is now twice the size of Texas. And even in the Gulf of Mexico. So all the water in Mississippi drains to the Gulf of Mexico. So when a plastic water bottle ends up in our local stream, eventually, if nothing stops it, it's going to go to the Gulf of Mexico. And not only that, but we spend a lot of our tax dollars to pick up trash. I mean, you've seen it around town. It's a local issue, state issues, and national issues. But also, recycling, and this is something that not a lot of people realize or think about probably, but recycling is an investment in job creation. The material that we send to the landfill is never going to add to our state's economy. So I put this up there. This is a little bit dated, but we have a huge problem with litter in our state. And I think it's important to think of recycling not as something else we got to do, but really recycling should be a part of our overall waste management plan. So just a little bit of terminology here. So when we talk about single stream recycling, that's when we put all of our material in one container. So plastic, cardboard, paper, steel, and aluminum. And then it has to be sorted later. Dual stream recycling is when we put that material in 2 separate carts or bins. We might have plastic in one container and paper and steel and aluminum in another container. And this is another thing about recycling that's important to remember is the more participation we have and the cleaner the material is, that's going to reduce our cost. So we want more people to participate in recycling. And then just something else on bins and carts. So if we use bins, the minimum recommended size for a bin is 18 gallons, which is this. The ones we had previously were, I think this is 14 gallons. So just to kind of give you an idea of the size. But if you look at the national recycling groups, they're pushing carts. So carts is, that's got the wheels on it. So ideally, if you were doing recycling the best way possible, you would have carts with single stream, make it easier on people who participate. They can roll it out to the street, and that would be automated. So you have a truck that would just automatically pick that up. But, and then that material goes to MRF, a material recovery facility, or for short, we call it a MRF. So if you hear like Smurf, that's a material recovery facility. And that's where the material goes to be sorted. Or like in rural areas, what we're seeing a lot in North Carolina is you can take it to a transfer station. So a lot of more rural areas can participate, move it to a transfer station, and then move it to the MRF. So that helps reduce your transportation costs. I'm just going to zip through these real quick. I've got the key elements for any recycling program. One of them, you all know I'm working with partners, but partners. And these are partners who can really help a lot through different types of resources. So one is the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. Jennifer Milner is our state recycling coordinator. This is her picture right here. Keep Mississippi Beautiful. It was just several years ago, not a few years ago. that Starkville became an affiliate of the Keep Mississippi Beautiful. I don't know, that was right before Mayor Wiseman, I think, left. But, so we are an affiliate now. The Mississippi Department of Transportation, they've got their Don't Trash Mississippi, the Adopt a Highway program. They spend over $3 million a year to pick up trash, and they don't even get it all. I mean, that just touches barely the tip. So again, just to keep reiterating that recycling, that should be a part of our overall waste management program, and it just raises the awareness of litter management. And then also the Mississippi Recycling Coalition. So I'm here representing the Mississippi State University Extension Service, but I'm also currently president of the Mississippi Recycling Coalition. And through that organization, we have access to different companies and municipalities and counties who are recycling in the state of Mississippi. And that's a tremendous resource just to find out, hey, what are other communities doing and how are you doing it? But also, I can't tell you how important it is, and that's something Alexis mentioned, is the education. It doesn't matter how big or how small your program is, you must have education for a program to be successful. Ideally, you would organize an intensive kickoff campaign before the program starts. You'd like to use multiple forms of communication, real simple language, a lot of graphics, and the recommendation is to continue your education quarterly, so 4 times a year. Start advertising ahead of time, and then these are just some resources that have free advertising material. You can plug in your logos, and you know, that's one thing in the recycling community, they all want to encourage it, so they're willing to share resources and free material and not charge for that. These are just some examples of graphics. You know, we don't want to use bags when we recycle. That's just another waste product, and it adds work. The first thing they do when this material gets to a MRF, they gotta rip that bag open and sort it. So it's just adding to the labor cost on the back end of this. We don't want hoses or wires or chains or electronics in our recycling because that damages the recycling equipment and could possibly injure workers. Just some more graphics, what to do on the left, what not to do on the right. And that's the other thing about recycling. Every community is different. You've got to be real specific on what's accepted and what's not accepted. And that's going to vary by community. So now I'll just show you a couple of pictures of drop-off programs, which is what we're looking at. Drop-off programs, you know, we'd love to have curbside, but drop-off programs are great too. They should be located for the convenience of residents, so a popular place, preferably a location that is monitored, and I think that's what we're looking at, so that would be great. Find out who's going to buy your recyclable material. That's really something that Waste Pro will handle. But Waste Pro will need to communicate back to us what they want to collect, and then what shape that material needs to be in. Take the plastic bag out of the cereal box before you recycle it, that kind of thing. And then look at potential revenue, the stability of market, and decide what to collect. But Waste Pro is going to decide that for us, I think. For a drop-off program, or I know we're not just getting started, but we're restarting. So, you know, it is good to start simple. Start simple, do a good job, a simple program. It's a lot easier to add material later on than take things away. And these are just some recommendations for the site. It should be well lit, be able to be seen, should be clean and well maintained, have good drainage, clean bins, be no more than 2 miles from users, have ample parking, and be marked with clear and attractive signage. We want it to look nice. The nicer it looks, it's going to deter people from littering or trashing it up. Should be reliable. And this is a big thing.
I'm gonna get James with it. What are you doing, adding numbers?
Hey, Ben.
You adding numbers?
Yo, Ben? Alderman Carver? Sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Taggart.
You want to have a trash can there, so if somebody does bring something that's not accepted, you know, instead of taking it home, they can just drop it in that trash can and it'll help keep the site neat. I don't think this will be an issue for us if the plan is to fence the site, but if it wasn't fenced, you might want to look at an anti-scavenging ordinance. Partner with other groups in the community or even other communities if you need to get more material. And then you can also allow local businesses to advertise by adopting a site or advertise at the sites to help reduce your maintenance costs. They might want to sponsor a sign. I hate to start with this one, but and just to give you a little bit of history, so back in 2014, I think, DEQ funded some regional recycling grants. So there are 4 communities in the state received that funding: Oxford, Greenwood, Natchez, and Macomb, Mississippi. So when I show you these pictures, those were, I mean, it was at least $1 million. They had to partner with other local communities, but that's what helped them get set up to do these programs. So because they had that startup funding, I know Oxford and Greenwood were both doing dual stream curbside pickup. And I'll show you some pictures for that. But see how clean this is. I mean, do you want to litter when you go outside? No. I mean, it looks so clean, so you're going to want to keep it clean. These are called poppers, by the way, so they can load them onto that truck and take them to their sorting facility. They're real easy to maneuver. You see they've got a trash can right there. The poppers are all very clearly labeled as to what's accepted there. And then you see the signage on the left. So these are some of their drop-off sites. I will say now, some of these slides I'm showing you, like Oxford and Greenwood, they did have curbside programs also, but I know Oxford has temporarily stopped their curbside program during the pandemic, but they still have their drop-off sites going. So this is their sorting facility. So once they pick it up in Oxford, they take it to this facility. It's dual stream recycling. So when it's dual stream, it's clean. It's a lot easier to sort. You see those bins on the left, they've sorted it, and then on the right, it's compacted. So, I mean, think about your transportation costs, and that's what was killing us before. We were paying to have that material transported to Tupelo. It was on the left. It was not compacted. It was a lot of bulk material. So, yeah, the transportation costs were killing us. But if we can compact that material and then transport it, that's going to save us a lot of money. And here it is. Also, the thing you should keep in mind with recycling is those commodity prices, they're constantly fluctuating. So a lot of recyclers will have, it's good if you can have a lot of storage space to hold that material so, you know, they can watch the prices and wait till they increase to sell that material off. This is Greenwood. They started in 2009 with some grant funding from DEQ and local matching funds. They renovated a city warehouse to serve as a drop-off location and processing facility. In 2012, they added 3 poppers, and then in 2013, they added 6 more poppers. But see how nice that signage looks? I mean, it's just real clean and neat. These sites are not monitored, but they have a local recycling coordinator who's constantly driving around and checking these sites. Then again, as I mentioned, in 2014, they got one of those regional grants. So with that money, they purchased a split rear loader truck, added a second baler to the warehouse, and they partnered with Carrollton, Indianola, and Sidon to purchase equipment and provide drop-off locations for those communities who are then bringing their material to Greenwood to sort. And I just wanted to show you, if you've never seen it, that's what a split truck looks like. So the one at the top is in Greenwood, and the one at the bottom is the one that Oxford has. So if you got dual stream recycling, you're going to need a split truck like that. This is just a shot of the drop-off location in Indianola, and that material is going to go to Greenwood. Cahoma County, they have, I don't know that they've ever had a curbside program, but they have a very active drop-off program. They're supported by grant funds through DEQ. They got 2 drop-off locations and went from collecting 14 tons in 2014 to 62 tons in 2019. They bought this truck, they transport their own material to buyers, and most of their grant funds go to transportation costs. So that's the most expensive piece of the recycling system. Ridgeland, Mississippi, they're one of the best recyclers in the state. They have a very active curbside program that's managed. They contract that out with waste management. They use carts with RFID technology that scans when they're automatically loaded. They use Recycle Bank. It's very active. They've got two drop-off. They also have two drop-off locations at fire stations that provide an additional 10 to 12 tons of recyclable material per month. It's open to the public, and these drop-off locations are maintained by the city. They pick up twice a month at a cost of $200 each pickup. I put this slide in here because I just think this is great information that y'all might want to know. The city they were spending over $90,000 a year in coal mix to repair potholes. So they purchased an asphalt mixer and hot box for $85,000. Their operational costs are $15,000 annually, and they use that to recycle old asphalt shingles, old milling, and rejuvenator to make new asphalt. They said it was paid for, I think, in 2 to 3 years, and saves them a ton of money. So there's a lot of, neat things we can do to save money and also help the environment. I'm pro-recycling and want to protect our natural resources, but I also want to save money when we can and certainly not waste it. This is just an image of a popper. This is actually manufactured right across the way in Columbus, Plum Creek Environmental. They manufacture a lot of these containers. And then I just wanted to show you some of the other programs, drop-off programs around the state of Mississippi. So Cleveland, Hattiesburg, DeSoto County. DeSoto County, that's an interesting one. They started with a really good drop-off program, and they've now expanded to carts as well, without a tax increase. Pike County, Natchez, West Point, Macomb, and Harrison County, which include Biloxi, Gulfport, some of the other communities. So, not trying to make y'all feel bad, but if we don't do any form of recycling, we will be the only major college town in the state that does not provide some form of recycling through the city or county. I say the best to last. Grant funds. So we have the Mississippi Recycling Coalition that provides grants to schools to help them get involved with recycling. And we also do scholarships for college students, and got a lot of students at Mississippi State who benefited from that. I'm just mentioning this would be way down the road, but the Recycling Partnership provides grants to upgrade to cart-based recycling or expand cart-based recycling. But I just want to give you an idea of the type of amount of funds that you could be looking at. So depending on what type of strategy you were to use for going to carts, whether it's universal, phased in, partial would just be you do it in certain neighborhoods, where maybe your density is a little bit higher, it's more economical. And then to the right, the different columns show how much money you could get for those carts, how much money you could get for education, and then the total grant funding on the right. So there are quite a few really good grant opportunities out there. Probably the lowest hanging fruit, lowest hanging opportunities for us would be those through Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. So as I mentioned, they provide those regional recycling cooperative grants. That's what Oxford, Greenwood, Macomb, and Natchez got. They also have solid waste assistance grants, which can be used for a lot of different things. Waste tire collection grants, solid waste planning grants, waste tire recycling, corrective action grants. So the SWAG grants, they have non-competitive and competitive. The non-competitive grant funds are for counties only, and that's based on their state aid road mileage. Those are due by April 30th of each year. The competitive grants are still available to the counties, but also for cities and regional authorities. And those are dependent on the population of the area served. And those applications are due in April 1st or October 1st of each year. You can't apply, I don't think you can apply both times, but you can pick your date and you can apply every year. And I've talked about this with Alderman Beatty. I mean, you don't want to run a program that's dependent on those grant funds. But these are great for those one-time expenses or other things that may come up. So for Starkville, I think we're just over 25,000 population. We would be eligible for $50,000 in a single award. So that could be $50,000 per year to, you know, pay for a fence, to pay for some new lighting, to pay for some signage. And what else can those funds be used for? Unauthorized dumping programs, bulky waste, mulching, composting, recycling, public education and outreach. And again, we've got to have that piece of it. But these grant funds can help cover some of those costs. It can help cover part of the salary for a local solid waste enforcement officer, and also household hazardous waste collection. For recycling, it can be used for bins, containers, trailers, equipment, contractual costs, projects at specific events. It can be used to pay for a baler, a shredder, and again, public education and outreach for recycling. And I've got 10 copies of this that I'll give y'all. So specifically for public education and outreach, what could we use those grant funds for? Advertising, brochures, mailer inserts, public notices, tools for schools. I mean, you get the kids involved, and you know, that's a great way to encourage parents to participate. And then promotional items for events and signage. And again, I'm just not to belabor the fact that regardless of the size of the budget or the program, for it to be successful, we must have education and communication for two reasons: to increase participation and then minimize contamination, which is going to help our costs ultimately. So there's no one size fits all, but I do believe that we've got options, and that everybody, every community, whether, you know, regardless of how rural or urban, can implement some form of recycling. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if I can, and I would like a copy of that. And I can email it to you as well.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Taggart. I appreciate it. Alderman Sistrunk, you were going to have Alderman Sistrunk.
Yes.
Yep, I'm here, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Alderman Carver. Hang on just a second. I was going to try to finish up their presentation if there was more.
Before we had got to the financial part of it, with any questions for Dr. Taggart or for Professor Gregory about anything that's been presented this morning from the board?
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
What did you count? Go ahead.
I just wanted to state all of that is good, but basically, the most recycling is not in sanitation. It's basically his own in it. And what we are doing, we are trying to put it, you know, it'll go through the sanitation, but all of those grants will be good if it's kind of, you know, separated from the sanitation part of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm going to go Alderman Ball. Alderman Carver, did you have something you wanted to add?
Just got a few comments when we get to that point.
Well, now's the point.
Okay, my thoughts on recycling are this. Like Ms. Maylove said, you know, it's not about making money, and that costs us money. I think that's the reality. A good analogy, like I guess cigarettes is something we know is evil and wrong, but we still have to live with it. We know that recycling is the right thing to do. How do you get there? And my opinion is I don't think you have some, you know, total community buy-in. Recyclers are a small percentage, a vocal percentage, but I don't. Community is something that most people I talk to don't recycle, probably 70-80% or more. It's not something they see as a necessity. So I would be more in favor of an education standpoint, something that you can try to get a total community buy-in and maybe send a flyer out and let you build some kind of survey to see if this is something that the community as a whole even embraces and wants to do, because I think it's fair and representative of the community as a whole to see if people is recycling something they're willing to pay for. There's a whole other side of individuals that don't recycle, and it's not imperative then that they do. So essentially, I think, in my opinion, recycling is probably dead in the water unless some type of major grant gets we as a city are able to acquire some type of major grants. Those are my opinions, but there's another segment out there that they're not recyclers, or for lack of education, they don't recycle. So those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman Carter. Alderman Sistrunk?
I had actually planned to save this until I could talk about the finances, but I would like to reinforce a couple of things that were said. One being that recycling programs do not make money as a rule. We've seen 2 recycling companies formed and go out of business here in Starkville over the last 10 years. I'm going to head a couple of people off at the pass with the hot mix recycling. Great idea. I was very excited when I heard about that. In talking with the person down in Ridgeland, what I found was that over time they did not get clean materials, and so they were getting shingles that had pieces of lumber and nails and that sort of thing in it. So it was a contamination issue. I don't know if they're still accepting that, but to make that program work, they were actually buying material that could be used for the hot mix machine that they bought, rather than depending on recycling in the community. 2 of the programs that are exceptional right now and have been in the works longer than ours, Ridgeland and Oxford, are cities where they have chosen to charge a recycling fee to every customer within the city's sanitation departments. $4 in Oxford, I believe, 5 or more in Ridgeland, and that allows them to operate the programs that they have. They're sustainable from just an operational point based on recycling. The city of Oxford at one time was heavily subsidizing their recycling program to the point that here in Starkville that would be the equivalent of 2 to 3 mills of additional taxes to subsidize that recycling program. I don't know that they may have substituted that recycling fee and have gone that route. I think that there is a group of people here in town who are interested in recycling. I think that there's very little that we do that everybody in Starkville will be supportive of, and I think it's important for us to meet as many of the needs as we can in a financially sustainable manner. I think because we are getting back into recycling, we need to look at Oxford and Ridgeland as things that we can hope to grow to someday. Both of those cities have separate recycling departments, separate from their sanitation department, so they're viewed as separate functions. That might be something that we can grow to someday, but I think right now the thing that we could do is have a reasonably cost-effective drop-off program, and when we come back to the financial part of it, we'll talk a bit about that.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Little?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Alderman Walker?
Yes, Mayor, I'll be brief. Just say that I certainly agree that Starkville needs to have some capacity to be able to recycle. I think it is unfortunate that not enough people were interested in recycling, or at least paying for that recycling curbside service to make it a viable service. I think a drop off is probably going to be the way to go. But I believe the real question then is going to be, how is it monitored? Who's going to be monitoring? Is it still going to be under the sanitation's control? And if it's not, how are you going to do that? And I think it just has to be very clear. Dr. Taggart and others have said it, the educational piece of this is hugely important. I can't state strongly enough the people that were recycling in the recycling program. I would notice routinely things being placed in there that clearly were not going to be able to be recycled. And that's an ongoing effort to be able to make that happen. I certainly would say that I'm in favor of finding a way to move forward. I don't know what that looks like exactly. I don't know where. I'm assuming there's been some discussion about where these locations are going to drop off locations potentially to be located. I would know that just from in the past where we've had those previously, like at Fire Station Park and the fire station off of South Montgomery, when we've done those in the past, I think if it's going to be a mimicking of that effort, then I think we would be better off going a different direction. The images that Mary Love showed was not what we had in those cases, and so you've either got to find a way to do it right, or find a way until you have the financial capability of doing it right.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Walker. I'm going to skip you, Alderman Beatty, just because it's your presentation, and I'll get Alderman Vaughn, if that's okay. Alderman Vaughn, anything?
Mainly that's my concern, where the funding coming from, and are we gonna separate it from the sanitation department? Because we saw that when we had it with the sanitation department, we weren't successful with it. But main thing, where's the funding coming from this? Are we gonna get grants to do it? And if we do it, I would like to see be separated from the sanitation department, so we won't be using sanitation funds to try to support this project.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, Alderman Beatty, you're back at it.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say that, let me put my thoughts on that. When we discontinued our program, we had approximately 1,000 households, 10% of our households are recycling. That's 10%, that's still 1,000 households. So to diminish the fact that 1,000 households, people in our city wanted to have an opportunity to have a program to recycle would just be not right. Second of all, there seems to be some continuing thing about the fact that cities with a different demographic mix, which you figure out what all that means, can have a more successful recycling program than we are, and that's just not right. That's not right. We're just relegating ourselves to a certain standard because we don't have the household income that original Mississippi has, or our Mississippi. That's not right. Third thing is first-class college towns, and we're talking about putting scooters running down the roads and all the things that we're doing right now that we consider to be progressions to being that college town we want to be. I can't imagine a college town, an SEC college town, without a recycling program, or a progressive town of anywhere of our size, with our potential capability in people we have here and things that we are able to accomplish without a basic recycling program. We have negotiated, because we had to, with Waste Pro as a standalone. When it was going to be part of Mississippi State, it was easy. Just come in under Mississippi State. Just come in under their program and just start doing it. But when that fell apart and we started negotiating with Waste Pro, the rules, the things changed. What we have done is met with the recycling committee and met with Waste Pro since our subsequent to our conversations with Mississippi State, since that wasn't working, and have come up with something that I think they want us to do if we put a recycling program back in place. They want us to, Dr. Taggart, I'll let you on terminology, correct me if I'm wrong on this, they want us to dual stream. I mean, they want a bin. They will not take plastics. They will take plastic for a price, and we don't want to pay that. So what we're proposing is a drop-off facility at the sanitation department, in a place where the other recycling drop-off bins were that Waste Management was picking up for us. And let me say this too. I mean, how much were Alderman Sistrom, how much were we paying Waste Management at the end of that, the time on an annual basis, Waste Management to pick up, come to Starkville from Tupelo, pick it up and carry back to Tupelo?
Those fees had bubbled up considerably over the last year of that arrangement, and they were looking like they were going to be running in the $5,000, maybe a little more than $5,000 per month.
60 grand a year. The program that we're proposing is is substantially lower price than what, and I don't know why, maybe we weren't talking to Waste Pro to begin with, but we weren't, and I won't get a second guess on that. But what we're talking about doing is fencing in a place at the sanitation department, putting the Waste Pro, setting a bin for paper, waste paper, aluminum steel cans. Right, but just in one bin, just that. And then another bin where your cardboard will be broken down and put through a slat into another bin. So I guess dual stream, no plastics. Got a 700-year decomposition life, but that's going to go to landfill. But that is basic 101 recycling. We have, and all the systems can get into the specifics on what it would cost us to do that, but this is a bare bones recycling program that gets us back into it, allows us and Dr. Taggart, tell me on this, from what I've read and talked to MDEQ, the grants are really available once you kind of get your program back going. You don't start a program by going out and asking for grant money, right?
I wouldn't think so, no. I mean, I think, and I work very closely with these people on other things, and, they email me, take advantage. I mean, I think over the past few years, Starkville's only applied for those grants maybe once or twice when we had the green bags, so it's a real missed opportunity. I mean, not just for recycling, but just, for waste management too.
Now, we had about 4 or 5 years that we had gotten about $25,000 that we got the green bags that were used to do that, and then the green containers. So.
And I would be happy to help, Mr. Ware or whomever, with the application.
And I'll make this comment too, that we this is something where we've got to have some initial monies put into it to get back in the recycling business. If we wait and start trying to take studies and surveys and things like this thing will die and never come back. So what we're proposing, and Ms. Sistrunk's going to do, is propose to us a program that would be the bare bones, just what I've described, recycling program to get back into it. And there would be ways after this thing's put into place and this stuff like the fence is purchased and some little bit of signage and marketing, some kind of advertising done, minimal stuff, that we find a way through selling bags or through some way to try to generate revenues to sustain this thing. I will remind you that we have big expensive programs in our general fund. They're paid for through sales tax and property taxes that are made up after we know where we have money come from all the sources, mainly sales tax, that do not have fees and do not sustain. They are not sustaining departments that have their own budgets based on revenue that they derive, within those revenues. And I can tell you in general fund what they are, but they're so. Enterprise funds like sanitation generate fees, and we pay for the cost of that operation at the sanitation department. This amount that we're talking about getting back into the basics of recycling is minuscule compared to what we pay for solid waste, for sanitation, for solid waste disposal. With that, I'll ask Alderman Sistrunk to come in and kind of share with us the financials, what the upfront, we won't call it capital cost, it's not that large, but the initial cost would be based on the conversations, the meetings that we've had, and then once we get into it, what the potential funding mechanisms would be to sustain this very, very small, minimal, basic program that would give our people in our city an opportunity to recycle. Alderman Sistrunk.
Actually, before Alderman Sistrunk speaks, could I address some of the comments that some of the other aldermen have made before we get into money?
Dr. Gregory, we are already pushing our limit. I'm about to lose a couple of aldermen, I think, from the meeting in its entirety. So, Alderman Sistrunk, if you could go ahead and give us the financial piece of it, please, ma'am. I'm sorry, Dr. Gregory.
Certainly, and I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Joel, if you don't mind, if you could put that Excel spreadsheet up that people can take a look at. There's two components. This would clearly have to start out functioning in the sanitation department. if it is embraced by the community, if it is, then I would see us applying for grants. I would see us hopefully finding somebody that could be a recycling coordinator, which is something that we've never had, and I think is one reason that our program did not thrive. But to get started, there's some minimal things that we need to do. There would be fencing. It would be locked. It would be in the area where the sanitation department and street department currently are located. We would need to buy some signage. We would have some marketing and education programs that we would need to do as a startup piece of it. All that, if we don't go the bag route, and I don't think anybody from Waste Pro to Mayor Love suggests that we go the bag route, probably in that $12,000 range. That can come from existing cash, some from sanitation. Some of it may benefit other areas like the street department, and some might be available through the general fund. The items that we would accept, those things that Waste Pro will have a ready market for, and even though there is a large plastic recycler in Troy, Alabama, Waste Pro says that they have a very hard time placing their plastics with that company. So it would be cardboard, office and mixed paper, scrap metal, tin cans, aluminum cans, that sort of thing. No plastics, no glass. One of the things that would drive the cost is the hours of operation. I would suggest that sanitation open that area when they open for work on Saturday, Monday through Friday, and lock it when they leave at 4 o'clock in the evening. So it would be available 7 to 4 right there where sanitation can keep an eye on it. And they would have a garbage bin that people could put their dirty pizza box in when they find out that it's not supposed to go in the cardboard. If we want to extend it so that we have a Saturday morning or two that we would have it open on a weekend for drop off, it will, and the numbers I'm going to talk about are for the remainder of this fiscal year, a little between $1,500 and $2,000 a month. If I'm sorry, that's wrong. Between $1,500 and $2,000 for the remainder of the year. If we wanted to open one Saturday, double that number. If we wanted to open 2 Saturdays. On an ongoing basis, our costs are going to be hauling fees, and it really becomes a question of how much people are bringing and dropping off. The proposal from Waste Pro is a $350 hauling fee per load. We think that cardboard is going to be the primary driver of all this. It takes a long time to fill one of those bins with mixed paper and aluminum cans, but particularly right now with people doing as much online shopping as they are, cardboard's going to be the driver. But even so, the estimate based on conversations with the people at Waste Pro, we're talking about 2.5 to 3 hauls a month until the program becomes more established and grows. We would do some ongoing education efforts and some marketing efforts. So I think that once we're past those startup costs, a program that we're talking about with drop-off, accepting those things where there are a ready market, 1 Saturday a month, my guess is that it's going to cost about $11,000, $12,000 for the remainder of this fiscal year. That's manageable within our current revenue stream. It is something we would need to monitor and look at how we might look for a funding mechanism going forward. The great news is by starting it early next year, 2021, it gives us about 6 months of information about how the program is working as we're rolling into our next budget. And so I would propose that we just absorb those costs initially through our existing revenue streams and our existing cash balances, and then look at how we want that program to function as we go into that next budget.
Okay, and so what you've got up there is for the remainder of this fiscal year, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Alderman Beatty, anything further for this?
Mayor, just, I think that reasonably, and I'll say it again, progressive cities do this. We consider ourselves a progressive city. And it's a component that we add for the, I guess if you want to call it the benefit, for people who value recycling. You know, people that see the problems we have in the environment stuff, and they're committed to this. And I think we need to give, this is a bare bones program, but this gives us, and when we talk about expenditures, I mean, we approve, how many police cars we buy last meeting?
14.
How much, what's the total cost of that?
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying.
I don't, well, I don't.
$400,000, $40,000+. I'm just saying, in the scope of what we spend money on, we gotta have it. We gotta have new police cars for the police department. I'm all for it, and I voted for it. But the scope of that, this is minuscule compared to what we spend in certain departments. And this is to give, you know, if we build it back up, 1,000, maybe more than 1,000 people the opportunity to recycle that right now, currently, they do not have the opportunity to do. So I think it's important, and I support it, and I'll be voting for it and supporting it Tuesday night.
Okay, and we have it on the agenda, so let's go through the agenda and see if we can get through this, and we will have it as a discussion and consideration. So, okay, all right. We've got minutes. Mr. Latimer, you're good with those minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Consent for those?
Consent.
Okay. We've got public hearings that obviously cannot go on consent, so we can go through those. Is there anything, this is the smoking ordinance coming back for its second public hearing. This will be consideration at that point.
Which has no changes from the first public hearing, so it's the
Okay.
same
It's
document.
identical to what we looked at the last
Yes, ma'am.
time. Anything anybody wants to talk about that particular? Okay. The next one is the code of ordinance for the new street and accepting the name changes. We'll be holding that, and there are no changes beyond our first time around. Is that correct, Mr. Kemp?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Then we've got public hearings on dilapidated structures and public hearings on a variance. So both of those, none of those can obviously go on consent and will be in your packet for consideration.
I've got a question
Yes, sir.
on the variance, on Adelaide, Chris.
Yeah.
You said on the P&Z, this is a huge project the Ramsey's got going over there on South Montgomery. If they were to, you know, phase 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, can we tweak a motion, assuming this passes Tuesday night, that it would include all future phases?
We can.
Without any, you know,
Yeah, I think it would.
negative repercussions?
No, I think that would work, as long as that would work conceptually with the subsequent phases.
Okay, just to keep them from having to come forward every
That's right.
time.
That's right.
Because they're going to constantly, just to make, just the design of their community.
Yeah. I'll take another look at that specific issue between now and Tuesday, but I think that would work.
Okay.
Okay, well, also the thing, how soon, oh, Daniel's not in here. Dr. Kim, do you recall how quickly a preliminary plat or something expires? Is it 6 months, 6 years? Do you recall? I think it's got an expiration date. It's the only reason I mentioned that.
Okay.
Because Chris, if you dig into it, that might be something to add to it, just
Okay.
because these things take obviously years to go through, so. Okay, and here, Alderman Beatty, is your discussion and consideration of the reinstatement of the recycling program. So, consideration of the request of the preliminary plat. This is the one that cannot be put on consent because it's going to be part of the public hearing.
Right.
So, all right, then we've got a rental agreement to replace a Canon copier. Any issues with any of that?
Consent.
Alderman, I'm sorry, Mr. Latimer, you've looked at all the copier agreements and
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
good? Okay,
Yes,
because there's
ma'am.
more than one on here.
We're good to go.
The next one, other court, same deal, consent for that?
We're good to go. Consent.
Okay, the street overlay listing and authorization, Mr. Kemp tells me he's talked to all the aldermen about the overlay project. He's got a list here that he's gonna pass out that is just to confirm with everyone, so we'll have it. But that is what we've had over the past 4 years, going on 4 years of the projects that we knew about, so I'm assuming without any change on any of those. Is consent good with everyone? Okay.
I've outlined the changes in the cover sheet.
Okay, but you have visited with all the aldermen that are impacted by this, right?
That changes.
Yes,
Right,
okay.
correct.
All right. Acceptance of a low quote for Stark Road sidewalk project. Everyone
Percent.
good with that? Thank
Percent.
you. Okay. OS Point Bridge design, and authorization to advertise, and that's moving forward even despite our issue with the easement?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because those have to track on dual paths
Okay,
to
just
make sure
making
we
sure
meet the timeline.
we
Yes,
were
ma'am.
coordinated,
We
okay.
have the other easement in hand.
Okay.
For the east side of the bridge.
Yes, okay, all right.
Consent.
Consent for that, all right, thank you. Authorizing as-needed contract with Neil Schaefer, this is for surveying services. This is, we have done this in the past. Mr. Latimer, any issues from your perspective?
No, ma'am, they're gonna change the time for payment from 30 to 45 days to meet state statute.
Okay.
Other than that change, it's good to go.
Okay, all right, any issues with that one?
Okay, consent.
Consent on that? Consider transferring the water department building located at 402 D.L. Connor to the street department once the new operations center building is completed. This is for the summer of 2021, and I'm gonna let Mr. Kemp tell us why he's bringing this forward in December for a summer of 2021 project.
Yeah, we've been in discussions with the utilities department about this, and what we would like to do, if the board's okay with this, we would like to start to do some assessments of that building to determine the needs and how much we're gonna have to plan on budgeting for improvements. I know, for example, the roof is gonna need repair. I'm not exactly sure when, if it's imminent or if it's within a few years. Utilities is still going to maintain a presence there. They have a water tank there, they have a well, they also have a water treatment component in that building. So we need to just coordinate with them on how they can maintain their operations, and the street department take over the remainder of that building as well as some of the area behind the shop there. We feel like it's a good move because it gives us an opportunity to have a more professional office. Right now, we're kind of in the back of the garage back there in a makeshift room. And then we feel like it'll give not only us more room for equipment and materials laydown area, but also will free up a lot of space for Mr. Ware in the area that we're currently using. So more than anything, we would just like to kind of get the ball rolling on a planning standpoint. Before we spend a lot of time and energy doing that, we just want to make sure the board was okay with that.
I'm gonna give him a hard time because I'm gonna say, I think he's just trying to make sure Calvin didn't get dibs on that building up there. Which wouldn't suit your operation at all, but I just want to give Edward a hard time, so.
Gotta give Calvin some room, give Calvin more space.
Yeah, he needs more space. That'll work out nicely for
Consent.
everybody. Consent for everybody on that? Okay, thank you. Then we have professional services supplemental agreement for the bill grant. Anything about that, Mr. Kemp?
Just a continuation of the project. This is a big bulk of the work for the design. It's, up to this point, we've just been working on conceptual things, and this is the design issues with all the underground electric, all the underground conduit gut banks for not only electric, but also third-party communications. It also will take all of the roadway design to finished plans. We'll have at least one more supplemental agreement that's going to mainly deal with geotechnical. We're hoping to roll that into this one, but it wasn't quite ready, so we decided to go ahead and move ahead. So this one takes complete design phase of this one.
Okay, all right, thank you. Consent with that one? Anyone have any issues?
Consent.
All right, and then we have receiving bids from the link tappage. When are we gonna get those bids, Edward?
We're gonna get those bids Tuesday morning at 9 a.m.
Okay, so it'll be until Tuesday before we'll have a name.
I hate doing this, but I think we're gonna lose that 3 weeks.
Right.
And this was the quickest I could get, because we had to put in the clear and ledger, and the requirements on this.
Right, okay, and this is, the linkage project is the one that's going from Spring down 12 into the campus.
Right.
Plug that in the table, could you?
Yeah, we can.
We're trying to get that timeline completed by August of 2022, or I'm sorry, 21, so I don't really want to lose that.
Okay, so we'll just plug in that name at the table on Tuesday night.
The board's okay with that.
That'd be great, thank you. All right, acceptance of the financials, any issues with accepting the financials? Okay, and then the fiscal year budget amendments. Anything about that, Ms. Harden, do you want to share? No? Okay.
Consent.
Okay, thank you. All right, HR, we're gonna hire some folks, y'all, and we need them desperately. This is for our entry-level firefighters. And then the next item is under police officers. So any issues with
Consent.
consent on all those? All right, thank you. Authorization to hire 2 new code enforcement officers, which we are clearly in need of as well. So looking forward to that. Consent on that?
Consent.
Okay. Hiring a maintenance worker for the street department.
Consent.
And then an auto technician. I think Mr. Kemp is very excited about his auto technician person.
Both of us are, it's this year position.
Okay, all right. IT service order for C-Spire. This is for Cornerstone Park. We're good with that one, and Mr. Latimer good with that one?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. And Parks design team for Cornerstone. Installation of the pavilion, the restrooms, building and structures for the entire project. So any issues with that one?
Consent.
Okay, thank you. Code enforcement resolution to adjudicate the cost of cleaning properties. Okay, yes, that's a table that's in your packet there. So, consent on any of
That's the
that?
two on Whitfield Street, Mayor? Curtis?
It's, there's 4 of them. One of them was the cost associated with, oh gosh, help me. Was it Whitfield? It wasn't Whitfield. It was
202 McKinley's
It
one
was
of them.
McKinley. It was McKinley Street. We had one on, in Alderman Beatty's ward, the Tanglewood.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the Tanglewood. So there were 4, but I don't believe one of them was on McKinley yet because we haven't done anything with it yet. Is that correct? Not McKinley, but yes. It was McKinley, but it was one that you asked about, Alderman Carver. Which one was it? What'd you ask about?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, we don't have anything on Whitfield yet. I'm sorry, I lost my streak. So not yet, but soon, okay? Consent for that one?
Consent.
Okay. Utilities department, we've got timber, selling timber, and that's where we're gonna get the ability to burn out there, once we get that timber sold and cleared off.
Consent.
Consent on that one, and then this is purchase of pipe, the lowest quote for the purchase of pipe for manhole risers for a project coming up. Consent on that one.
Consent.
And Synergetics for a web filter.
Consent.
5-year licensing agreement, and then purchasing 6 Dell computers for some outdated computers.
Consent.
All right, so that takes us to the end. We have no reason to be in executive session unless something comes up. Anything further from anybody? And I know we took a extra long time today, kind of, sort of, but we had important topics. So, anything from anyone else?
Mayor, it's not appropriate at all, but I had a quick public comment.
Well, it's actually not appropriate. We normally don't do that in work sessions, but if you'd like to talk to the alderman as we leave, that'd be fine. So, okay, thank you. Anyone else? Anything else? Alderman Sistrunk, anything from you?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, Alderman Carver, anything from you?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Walker, anything?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you all, and have a great weekend, and we will see everyone on Tuesday in either video, telephone, or in person.
Okay.
All right, thank you.